Let's look at the Eastern Conference. The odds have the Milwaukee Bucks as the favorite, plus 125, followed by the Sixers. Then there's a pretty steep drop-off in the Celtics at plus 800, the Nets at plus 1,600, and the Pacers at plus 2,000. The defending champs, the Raptors, long shot at plus 2,500, and the Miami Heat, even longer than that, at plus 3,000. Your top four, the Milwaukee Bucks, Sixers, Celtics, and Indiana Pacers. Mine, Celtics, we agree on. Philly, so we have three teams again that we agree on: Boston, Philly, and Milwaukee. I always got to throw a long shot. Like I like throwing the deep ball, and I am a Heat homer. I had to throw the Heat in there, just because the East is so wide open. Because there is this drop off in the top two. Because I'm on the same page with the Bucks and the Sixers, but like it is anybody's.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of wide open. If they do get Jimmy Butler going, find some sort of magic there. Who knows? Why wouldn't they be able to do that? Not an awful roster.
No, the Heat aren't bad at all. Heat, I think the Heat are a playoff team. I don't know that they're like the Pacers have been good for the last few years, so that's why I would go with them. But after that, like I'm not mad at you.
Yeah. All right. What about your surprise team, good or bad?
Surprise team is going to be the Knicks this year. I can't definitively say that they are going to make the playoffs, but they did have some nice pickups. I thought Julius Randle was 21-9 last year. Marcus Morris. 14-8 in playoff games. Like those are meaningful experiences, like guys that you can kind of lean on during a season. He was a backbone type of player for the Celtics. Who else is in there? RJ Barrett, obviously a young player. Dennis Smith Jr., Bobby Portis, a nice name, and Taj Gibson, a nice name. Now, Joey made a good point off air is they're going to struggle to probably shoot the ball. You don't have a lot of great shooters on that. You would hope, obviously, Mitchell Robinson is the big fella, takes the next step. They're going to have to beat you up and bully you kind of like Memphis did a few years ago. Don't know that there's a real high end on that, but I do think in the Eastern Conference, like we just alluded to, after you got through the first 3 or 4, anything could happen. They could be a surprise team in the East.
All right, my surprise team, you'll see who it is when you see how far I have them going.
Oh.
But Joey has a surprise team. Who you got?
Well, my surprise is, especially looking at the Vegas numbers, and now the caveat being that it's all dependent on health, but assuming people come back and people are healthy, I'm saying the Pacers are going to be right in the mix to win the Eastern Conference. I think the way they're listen, Miles Turner led the league in blocks last year. They have the rim protector.
Sweet.
You need 2 great wing defenders. They got Brogdon and Vic. When Vic comes back, he's their closer. Sabonis, who we didn't talk about on the extensions, one of the best value contracts in the league, averaged 13-9 last year in 24 minutes a game. Thaddeus is young. He could explode this year. I think they picked up T.J. Warren, Jeremy Lamb. They have all types of shooters. I think they're going to be right in the mix if they're healthy.
Bro, you just love Malcolm Brogdon.
He does.
He
does love Malcolm Brogdon.
Look, he's like the prototypical NBA point guard now. He's big, he can defend, and he can shoot. He was a 50-40-90 guy.
I too like Malcolm Brogdon. I think he's a really good player. I'm not mad at you, Joe. Like I'm not here to I'm not casting judgment. I like the Pacers. They were in my top 4.
Yeah, they were in your top 4.
I don't know that they creep into potentially winning the Eastern Conference. Like they'll lose in the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs to one of the eventual Eastern Conference Finals participants. It's going to be a good story. The Pacers typically, you can look at their roster with a bunch of names like you just said, Joe, and they make it work. The style that they play, the way that they get the buy-in there, like the culture's got to be fantastic. It's not unlike the Heat in that regard. Whatever lineup they put out there, whether they're names you know or not, they play hard, they scrap, they fight, and they find a way to kind of always be in the mix. But I don't know that they got the chops, bro, to get over the Eastern Conference hump.
All right, so my surprise team is actually going to lead us right into our Eastern Conference champion.
Yeah.
My surprise team is the Boston Celtics, winning that Eastern Conference. So you heard why I picked the Rockets, right? They eliminate Chris Paul from the equation. What's been the bugaboo for this team? Kyrie Irving. It's been this cancer in the locker room. Even though as talented as he is, there was something off about this team. Go back to some of the pieces on here, how close they were just a couple years ago before Kyrie. They were right there knocking on the door. I think they're going to put it all together this year. What? Can we get a zoom in on Raja's face with the look of disbelief that he has there? Come on, I'm a believer in Kemba. I felt like he was one of the most underrated players in the NBA during his time in Charlotte. Totally forgotten about. He's going to come in, fit in seamlessly. Jaylen Brown's happy now. He can buy everybody dinner. This is going to be the Celtics team. This is their year. Brad Stevens, you'll see. You watch.
You're bugging. Okay. Now, here's the deal. I like the Celtics, and I think the Celtics, with the way they are currently constructed, fit more with the mold that Brad Stevens likes to work with.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's more of his style of team.
Also, Gordon Hayward's another year removed, getting healthier. Oh, yeah.
If you subtracted just Kyrie Irving from the equation, I'd say possibly, right? Because I too think Kyrie had a hand to play in the way they didn't play last year. But you didn't just subtract Kyrie.
Right.
You subtracted Al Horford, who's played huge for them.
Yes.
Marcus Morris, who I just talked about, was 14-8 through the playoffs, holds you down. The type of player that
Enforcer.
Yes. Terry Rozier, who was a huge part of that Eastern Conference playoff run a few years ago. And not to be left out, but Aaron Baines, who played really good minutes for them. They didn't just subtract Kyrie and plug in Kemba. They subtracted a whole lot of kind of the backbone of what they did. And they still have some nice pieces. But we talked about Jaylen Brown. Like, he hasn't earned that money yet. They're hoping that he can go out there and take that next step. None of that is proven. So I appreciate your rant.
My enthusiasm.
Your enthusiasm for the C's, but I don't buy it.
All right, who you got?
Who do I got? What? Winning the
East.
So I'm conflicted, right? Because ultimately I think the Sixers figure it out. Although I picked the Bucks, like I usually, if you make me rank them, I'll put the Bucks ahead of the Sixers.
Right.
But I think at the end of the day this year, the Sixers figure it out. I think Ben Simmons takes the next step. Joel Embiid seems to be more motivated than he's ever been. I really, really like the Josh Richardson pickup. I know he's not JJ Redick, but he does some things that JJ doesn't do. Like he shoots the ball well, but he can also kind of create. Like he's had to in Miami for the last few years. He's kind of a guard that can play with the ball in his hands and he can spot shoot. And what he really is a very, very good defender. Mm-hmm. And I think that significantly helps them. And so I think that the Sixers get over the hump and they win the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, Raj, I like it. We talked about it too. The Simmons, his jumper, right? If he can shoot, then actually I think they are a title type of team if he can shoot. But to go back to Danny's Celtics pick, I'm gonna play both sides of the fence here a little bit, and I'll help Danny. I'm gonna give you.
Help me out. Help me out.
They're the highest variance team in the East by far.
All or nothing, baby.
They can win the East, and they can also miss the playoffs. But I will say this: Kemba's an all-star. Jason Tatum has the ability to be a star in the league. Gordon Hayward was an all-star if he can get back to all-star level. They just paid Jaylen Brown all-star money. How many teams have 4 all-stars if they all play to the top of their ability?
Get on board.
If they play that way, maybe there's a shot.
Joey,
get on board now.
Did you just
Celtics train is pulling out?
Did you just what and possibly an if and maybe me into like having 4 all-stars on the Celtics this year?
And I'm giving.
Is that what just happened?
It's happening. That's what I'm going out there.
He's just what if and possibly me into 4 all-stars for the Celtics this year.
I'm trying to help Danny out here.
I'm trying to help him out
because I can't really ride with the Celtics.
I was up all night doing research, studying film of last year and 2 years ago. That's what I came through. I punched all the numbers in. It came out with them. All right. So you have the Sixers and Lakers in the final. I have Boston and Houston in there. We'll tell you who we think wins it all next on Kanell and Bell.